What's up, family? Welcome back to the Stop Sinking Show, where we go from struggle to flow. When's the last time you were in a bad mood? And bad is a general term, so whether it was a legitimate reason or an overreaction, the question is, when was the last time your peace was disturbed? I'm calling that a bad mood. And the following question after that is, what's the half-life of your bad mood? How long does it linger for? Do you get over it within a minute, an hour? Does it take you a whole day and actually become a mood? Does your bad mood become a bad day? Do you need to go to sleep and wake up for a reset for your bad mood to be over? These are some things to honestly ponder on. Because my question ultimately is, what is a bad mood worth? And depending on how you've answered the previous questions, what is then that minute, that hour, or that day worth? Let's say you expect to live 82 years. That's one full day out of 30,000 days allotted to you. So what is it worth? I ask myself the same question. Because quite often, over the past couple years here, especially not having a set routine like I used to in my normal life, I usually wake up here in the middle of a running day. When I was back home in the States and committed to the hours that I lived, I woke up before anyone else and I centered myself before I had to interact with other human beings. And that made it less likely for me to get into a bad mood because I have established some mindfulness in the morning. But while I'm here, I work through the night and I sleep early mornings into the afternoon. So quite often, I wake up to an aggravating phone call or following up with someone who has promised me something that hasn't been delivered yet. Almost every day, I wake up having to scream at someone for not doing what they said they would do. And I won't go into why this response is required because it's a whole nother set of stories that takes me away from the point of this episode. Maybe I'll talk about that some other time. But anger is almost a tool you have to use here to get things done. It's quite frustrating. And I've talked about this before. For someone like my father who has dealt with people in this environment for a long time, he's a master at it. He can scream at someone on the phone, and as soon as he hangs up, switch his mood right into a calm state and have a gentle, loving conversation with the person sitting right in front of him. And I don't have this kind of practice of years, so if I have to get mad at something to get something done, or scream at someone because they failed to follow up and make excuses for months, then that anger tends to linger on for me. It tends to ruin my entire mood for the day. Now, I usually try and reset it through a workout or talking to people or having nice conversations, but that doesn't always mean it's out of my system entirely. And it's been proven that once you express anger, your body is now primed for anger and more likely to get angry again within the next 24 hours. So for me, 1 minute of expressed anger for me can turn into a bad mood and a bad day. And so then I ask myself this same question in very literal terms. What is a bad mood worth? And oftentimes my calls are money related or things I can usually put a dollar amount on. I'm trying to clean up money my father spread over insurance policies and other stuff, and to deal with these people and liquidate these things is a nightmare. So oftentimes after getting myself in a bad mood, I ask myself, that was literally over $5,000 or $10,000. Or sometimes the worst case here is I might lose $50,000 or $100,000. So my aggravation can really be calculated in dollar amounts. And there's an old saying that I'll butcher. You can tell how big a man is or what his worth is by what makes him angry. And to be honest, it's not really about the money. It's the principle of the matter that makes me angry. It ain't about the money because I burn bread. It's the principalities like Big Worm said. And again, it's also the responsibility that has been handed to me that I take so seriously. But still, it does measure me up as what kind of man I am. Because at the end of the day, I lose a day because my mood was thrown off. And that day could be worth a lot depending on how and what I do with it and how I spend it. And that day, depending on what worth I assign it to, somebody else who is a billionaire assigns a lot more maybe to their day than I do. But still, that day, if I don't assign it a lot, I'm willing to lose it. But if I assign it its actual value, then how I spend that day tells me, and what I'm willing to throw that day away for tells me what kind of man I am. Because my mood was thrown off, and I can boil it down to an amount. And then if I think about it and say, if I shrank the value of this amount by making 10 times this amount, would I really care so much? Would I still get as angry? Would I let it ruin my day? Probably not. So is this 5K or 10K or 100K worth even one day of my productive life? Not really. And again, if you're not a saint and have been honest with yourself while listening here, you also get into bad moods. And maybe your bad mood lingers on your entire day like it does for me. And guess what? Not only does it affect you, it affects everyone you interact with. Your family, your friends, especially the people closest to you, because you won't put in the effort to put a happy face on for them. And they can feel it. All these people suffer. And for what? Ultimately, a dollar amount. Something else? If it's something else, what exactly is that thing worth? What is it really worth getting upset about that might linger on and affect your whole day, and then other people as well? It's a really important question to ask yourself. Now, there's been plenty of times I found out that I have been taken advantage of. Is that enough of a reason to ruin my day? That incremental amount that I was taken advantage of? You only have so many days. And even less of those are healthy days. So if you have it within you to bounce back quicker, breathing techniques, nature walks, whatever it is that you think, not many things, and definitely no dollar amounts, are worth your bad days. Money doesn't feel bad for you or because of you, and you shouldn't feel bad for it or because of it. If I trace back many of the times I've been upset in my life, unfortunately, it all came down to something I could have replaced with more money. And none of those things are worth robbing you of your peace. None of them are worth taking you off track from what is really important and what you're really trying to do in life, which is living your life to some productive end. Any energy leaks are detrimental to that progress. You have to fight bad moods like your life depends on it, because it does. I love you, family. Stay true always. See you on the next show.